Hello, everyone. This is Aaron St. Denis at FF Mad Scientist, joined today by Jeremy Shulman at FF_Rebel. This is the Mad Science Lab podcast brought to you by the combination of the Fantasy Football Universe and the Fantasy Football Advice Network. What did I tell you before? Just one big talk in a loop. Just doesn't work at all.
That's all we do here anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, fair enough. Today, we are here with our next edition of Dynasty Risers and Fallers. As I said before, if you're watching this show, I don't really have to introduce like this. I can skip this part. Hey, Jeremy, what do you do? Tell us about yourself. If you're watching my podcast, you already know who he is. He's my co-host. So how's it going, Jeremy? Where do you work? What do you do?
Yeah, man. Fantasy Football Universe. That place, it's all right. I don't mind it. The ownership kind of sucks, but otherwise, the content's decent.
The ownership does suck. Those guys are idiots.
But otherwise, yeah, just putting out content as much as possible, quality and quantity all in one, and looking to take the fantasy landscape by storm in 2023. So double FU. If you don't agree, let's go.
You're more about quality. I think I'm a quantity guy. Hey, I think we've determined that. If not through my fantasy football work, at very least through my dating life. But that's another story. All right, let's get into risers and fallers on that lovely note. Your riser is Tennessee running back Tyjae Spears. He was a rookie last year, finished as running back 34, 100 attempts, 453 yards, 2 touchdowns, 50 receptions on 70 targets. I never would have guessed. 385 yards and 1 touchdown. I always say I hate keep trade cut for their rankings because they're so unreliable. But for this part of the offseason, I like to know what the general consensus, how the general public feels about him. They have him 68th overall at RB14, which is interesting because Fantasy Pros expert consensus has him only 3 spots higher at 63rd overall, but 21 running back 21. So 7 running back spots lower, but 5 slots overall are higher, which just goes to show you that Fantasy Pros, those experts on there, they're really hammering running backs early in these drafts. So what are your thoughts here on Tyjae? Why is he a riser for you, and how high do you see him going?
Yeah, so I kind of thought about this a little bit differently because Tyjae Spears, for me, as much as I like the talent, I think he's a big sell. And I think even though he's a riser for me in terms of opportunity, certainly the market is incredibly high on him right now. Like you mentioned, on KTC's RB14, if you can get him at RB14 prices, like you need to be selling him immediately if you have him. You also mentioned Fantasy Pros. He's RB21 right there in consensus ranks, ahead of Ramondre Stevenson in Dynasty, which I think is absurd. Certainly, he's a smaller back. It's unlikely, even given his talent and what he's shown already in his rookie season, it's unlikely that he's going to be shouldering the load there in Tennessee next year. They have to bring somebody in at least just to reinforce what they're trying to do with building with Will Levis. So there's a lot, I think, from the perspective of Dynasty owners, there's a lot to like, but at the same time, he seems to be a little bit high, and I'm happy to, cash out while he's at his apex here.
Oh, no, that's absolutely fair. You can say he's a riser. It doesn't mean you're willing to pay that price. It just means you see that he's rising, and I think he's going to rise even more than that. Like, if they're expected to move on from Derrick Henry, correct?
Yeah, that's the idea.
So he's RB21 right now on Fantasy Pros. He becomes the lead back after having like his pass catching alone. Like what did I say? 70 targets, 52 receptions. You turn that into he's going to be the number 1 back and he's a second-year player. This is going to be a RB2. No, it's going to be higher than that. This might be like a RB 15 to 12 to 15 range. He's going to go a lot higher, I think. I know the Tennessee offense, people hate it, so that might limit how high he goes in the rankings, but I definitely think this one's going to keep climbing. I don't hate him. I don't want to pay that price. What I've been doing is, I don't know if they necessarily have the upside, but I've been taking Chase Brown at a third of the price because I think they're similar situations. Good pass catchers, good young second-year players. They're both going to take over after a veteran leaves. I think Cincy's offense is better. I think Chase Brown is maybe a little worse than Spears, but I can have him at way cheaper. So that's the guy I'm targeting over Spears, but I think they're both going to be rising, but Spears is going to keep rising pretty damn high.
Yeah. The one argument I'd make against Cincy in this case is that that team is well established. We know that Tennessee is, they're on the opposite end of the spectrum. They're not buying for a championship, so less of an incentive in Tennessee to be bringing in, an established back. They could very well roll with Spears as their primary guy. One way I'm kind of looking at it here in Tennessee is, Spears' situation. We're kind of hoping for Rachaad White and what he was able to put together last year. Spears actually on less work ended up out targeting White, I think, by 1 or 2 targets, which is impressive in its own. But of course, if you look at Baker Mayfield and what he was able to do last season, Will Levis is fine, but he's certainly no Baker Mayfield at this point in his career, which is, not exactly pouring praise on the young man. So we'll see. But the last thing I'll mention about Spears, there's a couple of things here just to point out. Number one, Tennessee is probably going O-line with their 7th overall. They've been mocked that
Alt or whatever it is.
Yeah, Alt or is it Fashanu? I forget the.
There's a Fashanu and a Fatanu, and there's I know who you're talking about. There's a whole bunch of them.
But that's the assumption, and certainly the idea is to protect Will Levis. But quite obviously, that's going to help Tyjae Spears in his game with his quickness there. Number 2, the backfield and what they have there currently: Hassan Haskins, Julius Chestnut, Jonathan Ward. That's it. There's nothing really kind of threatening his workload, so they'll have to bring somebody in, which who knows, maybe they just roll with Spears. And then the final thing to consider is his senior year at Tulane, which was in 2022. He ran for 1,586 yards and 21 total touchdowns. He scored 4 touchdowns and ran for 205 against Caleb Williams and USC to beat them in the Cotton Bowl. This guy's an absolute baller. He proved it again last year. So he's rising. The hype is worth it. Will it convert to fantasy production at RB14 prices? That's the only thing I'm not sure of.
No, I actually agree with both your players. It's funny when I look to see who you had chosen, I'm like, this guy's going to choose Calvin Ridley and Alexander Madison as his 2 players, isn't he? He's going to do it just to troll me, isn't he? So I guess that will take us to your faller, who is Dallas quarterback Dak Prescott. He is in his 9th season. He's finished as QB 7, 10, 14, 2, 32 in the year he missed most of the season, 8, 18, and 3. Last year, 410 completions on 590 attempts, which is tied for the 2nd most of his career. He's only beat it by 6 attempts, so it was a high pass volume. 4,516 passing yards, which is also 2nd in his career. 36 touchdowns, 2nd in his career. 9 interceptions, 3rd lowest of his career. And then he added in 242 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So he had a damn near career year last year. He was, like I said, QB3. The other year that he beat it all was 2019, where he was QB2. KTC currently has him as 103 overall, obviously single quarterback. They have him as quarterback 17. Fantasy Pros only has him 7 spots higher at 96, but he's QB 12. So it's interesting that, only 10 spots of difference, but he's 5 QBs lower. So he is in the, I'm going to bring up just a sec. He is in tier 3. I noticed with a lot of the quarterbacks I've discussed on this show, tier 1 is the pretty solid. No one's going to pass. Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Jackson. Then we get to tier 2. That's pretty set of Stroud, Burrow, Herbert, Richardson. Tier 3 seems to be a large group of 8 quarterbacks that nobody has any idea how to value. Kyler, Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Dak, Love, Fields, Purdy, and Tua. And it's just one big mess of, we don't know what to make of these guys. So what do you make of Dak? Do you see him like in that 3rd tier there? I know it's a lot of players I named, but do you see him at the high end of that tier 3, low end of that tier 3? Like, what do you see of him?
I think Dak is safe, right? And when we're playing fantasy football, I don't necessarily want to roll with the safe guys. A few years ago, even last year, I felt that Dak had upside. Now he's turning 30. We just saw him, like you mentioned, put damn near together a career year for himself. And he did that facing one of the easiest schedules of any quarterback in the league last year. The good news for him is we know that Philadelphia is unlikely to get significantly better, and they play them twice. Washington is unlikely to get significantly better. They play them twice. The Giants, same sort of deal. So he's still going to have 6 games where he should be able to put up significant, high-end QB1 performance. That said, he's not getting that schedule back. CD Lamb, as good as he was and is unlikely to repeat as the overall wide receiver 1. Again, buoyed by that easy schedule. And then you mentioned these things, right? He was 4th in attempts this year, 1st in completion percentage, 1st in red zone attempts because the rushing game and the line was so poor, 1st in passing TDs as a result in the league. And he was also 10th in rushing attempts, which, as he ages is going to decline, even though he can still run the ball and get away from pressure. So, I think all of these things just combine to say that, Dak had probably one of his last great seasons. And it's unlikely he repeats this now and going forward. I'm concerned if he's able to, put up a top tier effort like this again. I don't think it's going to happen.
Sorry, I'm just checking. I know they didn't announce the schedules, but they did reveal who their opponents were on like the crossovers. I'm just bringing that up right now.
But, yeah, great.
Damn it. And I had it and I don't know where it is. Cowboys will play. Okay, the home opponents include, Giants, Commanders, Eagles. We knew that. Along with the NFC opponents. So they get the South. Oh, no, sorry. They get the Saints. That's not a terrible opponent. Buccaneers and Lions. So their 3 non-divisional opponents in the NFC aren't easy games in Saints, Bucks, Lions. They're not. Saints and Bucks aren't hard, but AFC opponents, this is interesting. Ravens, Bengals, Texans. So again, 3 games that aren't exactly cakewalks. The road games, the 3 division games. And then they add in San Francisco, Falcons and Panthers, Steelers and Browns. So it looks like aside from 2 maybe 3 really easy NFC South opponents, they do not have an easy schedule outside of their own division. So they got, They got the entire AFC North, and then they got 49ers, Bucks, Lions. So they got the NFC or AFC North as their crossover division, then all the number one division winners from the NFC, then they get their own division twice, and the NFC South. So it's not, like you said, it's significantly tougher than last year. They go from where they played maybe 6 playoff teams to they're going to play 10, 11 playoff teams. Like on that list, who didn't make the playoffs? Atlanta, Carolina? Everyone else made the playoffs, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's okay. They're 2 in their division, Giants and Commanders. So they're still going to get 2 cakewalk games, but so where are you comfortable taking him? Do you see him like he's in the range? Like I said, it starts at 9 and goes all the way to 16. Do you want him at 9, or is he just like I said, I sorry to interrupt you, but I know in this range, I was saying yesterday, we were talking about Jordan Love, and I was saying I tend to take Dak and Love in this group because they're probably as reliable as anyone else in this group of 8 players, but they seem to be the ones who are falling, like Kyler, Lawrence, Caleb Williams. They're all getting pushed up, and I'm ending up with Dak or Love at the bottom of this. Are they avoids to you in this group or targets? Or
no, it depends, right? Here's the thing. Jordan Love and Dak aren't necessarily run first guys. They're looking to pass the ball. With Jordan Love, he's got all of the weapons in the world. If they can manage to replace A.J. Dillon and get the most out of Aaron Jones and a healthy season, that offense should be electric. Dallas isn't really there. They're going to need to add multiple pieces. Their offensive line is crumbling. Tyron Smith may not be back. So they've got a lot, and Tony Pollard and the running game, who knows what's going to happen. I'm getting tweets as we're doing this. If I told you that Saquon Barkley says he intends to sign with the Cowboys, would that sway you? Because that's what just came up, that the Giants are going to release him and he's zeroing in on the Cowboys as his preferred destination. It's helpful, but I need to see an offensive lineman or 2 there, right? Like that's one piece of the puzzle. But if Saquon can't be effective and is running into walls the way Pollard was last year, it could be more of the same for Dak, but no, that definitely helps. But what I will mention here is the fact that not only do we have, Jordan Love, who's kind of a better version of what we're looking at Dak at from a fantasy perspective now, you mentioned Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, all of these guys. What do they have in common? They can run. In addition to Caleb, we're potentially getting 3 more potentially QB1 level rookies coming into the league who are dual threat guys, right? And that's what we're looking at. If Justin Fields lands in a good spot, if McCarthy and May and Daniels all hit, Dak Prescott is not that guy. And Trevor Lawrence could even be convinced to run more than he's been. We know he has that in his bag. Dak Prescott could very easily go from finishing as the QB2 this season to the QB15 next season, simply because these dual threat guys are hitting.
But that's an interesting point. He went from where he was safe with upside to now he's just safe. Okay, so here's what his rushing touchdowns were in the 4 years before his injury. 6, 6, 6, 6. In 2020, the year he played 5 games and got hurt, he already had 3 rushing touchdowns. So he was probably on pace for at least another 6. In the 3 full seasons since, 1, 1, and 2. Even now, like the 3 years before, he went from running for about 300 yards per season to 93, 146, and 182. Last year, he rebounded to 242, but it was like way more attempts than usual. And previously, on the amount of attempts he had, he was rushing for almost double. So he's not rushing anywhere near as efficient. He's not getting any goal line carries. The rushing touchdowns have plummeted. And that's what, I know they're not the same player, but when Ryan Tannehill really hit the wall, that was the big thing for him. Nobody noticed he was getting 7 to 9 rushing touchdowns a year, and then they just dried up. And that's why Dak is still safe, but the upside of those half dozen, rushing touchdowns, it's gone. And now it's 1 or 2. So it caps him.
And the last thing I'll mention, you mentioned Saquon Barkley. I'm just looking at Tony Pollard from last season. If you had to guess, how many times do you think Tony Pollard carried the ball over 20 times last season?
How many games did he carry it over 20 times?
Yeah.
I don't think he can handle it. So I would say twice.
Yeah, 3 times.
3 times. Yeah.
We know that that's all Saquon does, right? They're going to feed him. Jerry Jones, Mike McCarthy. I mean, these guys are going to feed Saquon all he's worth.
So R.I.P. Tony Pollard is what you're saying. Oh no, he's a free agent anyway. So that just assumes. No, but
R.I.P. Dak leading the league in attempts again.
So. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Was Dak a big check down guy? I don't remember. I know he's big on tight ends, but I don't remember. Do you know off the top of your head? It was tough because he had Zeke for so long. So who wouldn't check down to Zeke? But I don't remember him checking down to Pollard all that much last year.
Well, I agree. I mean, Pollard's has plenty of targets to go around, but I can't think in the first year of the Mike McCarthy offense how that operated for him.
Fair point.
But I will say this, I mean, Saquon is fair enough in the passing game, but you mentioned the tight end, like Jake Ferguson. I think for as solid of a tight end as he is, he's not an elite guy. And Dak looking for the tight ends, it would be amazing to see an elite guy. There's nobody really out there, and Bowers is going to go too soon for Dallas in the first round. But it would be really nice to see an elite tight end go there, because that would play to what Dak always loves to do is look for the tight end in critical situations. But Ferguson isn't that guy.
Absolutely. Well, that's a wrap on this edition of Risers and Fallers. Thank you all for tuning into the Mad Science Lab podcast. Now, brought to you by a partnership of Fantasy Football Universe and Fantasy Football Advice Network. Check back tomorrow for the next edition of the Risers and Fallers series. Thank you to Jeremy for joining me today, and thank you all for tuning in. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.